I just bought the Nikon Zf. And I bought it because lately I've been seeing a lot more content about this camera, even though it was released almost 2 years ago. And I also saw that it got a new firmware update, which brought some nice quality of life changes. And also the Nikon Recipes. So I decided that I had to buy it and test it myself to see what's up with this one, and maybe also compare it to my X-T5, because frankly they are certainly for the same group of people. They meant this and the X-T5 for the same group of people who want this retro styling in their cameras that will inspire them to go out and shoot more. This is my first impression video about the Nikon Zf. The things that I heard mostly about this camera in the last 2 weeks or so is basically the build quality. It has a really good build quality. Its weight, because it's a pretty hefty camera. The 2.0 update, which brought a bunch of nice quality of life updates. And also the same update brought the Nikon Recipes. And also the good feel in the hand, which I will talk about a bit later, because I have some thoughts about the handling of the camera. But yeah, these are the things that I will also talk about in this video as a first impression, what I think about the camera. So let's start with build quality. This is pretty easy. This camera is built like a tank. I'm not sure how they did it, but it really feels great. The whole body is made out of a magnesium alloy. The controls, the dials are from metal brass. The textured outside part is also seems to be a really high quality silicone or something like that. I'm not sure what material they used, but I think it's something that will hold up pretty well in time. The buttons are perfectly balanced between being rubbery and tactile. So they are not really clicky, but they are not mushy either. The screen, the hinge, is also really good. I think it can take a beating. It really feels solid when you flip it around and turn it and twist it. The only thing that I could nitpick, if I really want to pick something that's not the best quality, is the battery door. But I mean, that's not something that you open that often. It's not that it's bad, it's just it's not the same quality as, let's say, the rest of the camera. The EVF, the eyepiece itself, is also really high quality. You put your eye to it and it's really comfortable, and it also has a really nice display, so the display itself is also high quality. The Fujifilm X-T5's EVF, if I remember correctly, is 0.72 magnification. The Sony's EVF are 0.78 magnification, and this one is 0.8 magnification. So the difference is not that huge in numbers, but for some reason it feels like it's a bigger difference in real life. The image seems to be a lot larger and sharper than both the Sony and Fujifilm counterparts. Then the next thing is its weight. Because it's built really well, you can expect that it will weigh a bit. And it does. So with battery and SD card, it's supposed to weigh around 700, 710 grams body only, which I think is a bit more than it should be. I mean, yeah, it really feels like a well-built, older film camera, but it also makes it a bit more cumbersome to use. And combined with the shallow grip, because it really is shallow, I think they should have put a bit bigger of a grip like it is on the X-T5. You kind of need to hold it like this. And even with this small lens, the 28 f2.8 or the 40 f2, if that's what you get for it, it's still a bit harder to hold in one hand. And depending on how you configure the buttons on the camera, it gets a bit difficult to control it with one hand. For example, in these cases, when I'm also filming with the DJI Osmo Pocket with my left hand and I'm trying to take photos with my right hand, it's not that easy. And so the only way to make this whole setup a lot easier, because I also bought the 24-200 lens with this. That setup is really heavy. It's 1.27 kilos. That's absolutely not one-handable, if that's even a word. But you put the 28 or the 40 millimeter on it, and it becomes okay. It's similar to what the Fuji weighs when you put the 23 millimeter 1.4. And even when you compare those two setups, so ZF with 28 and the Fuji X-T5 with the 23 1.4, the Fuji is a lot more manageable and a lot more comfortable to hold because of the grip. So yeah, I will probably buy a small rig leather grip for this one, or the normal metal grip. I'm not sure really which one would be a better choice. But yeah, the weight is quite a bit a concern for one-handed usage. If you like to shoot with two hands anyway, then this is not a problem at all. So, about those quality of life updates, I did not have this camera before the update came, and I already got the camera with the 2.0.2 installed, so I don't really know what the issue was before the update. But I heard that, for example, there were some bad decisions made around the auto ISO and the ISO dial usage. But the 2.0 fixed it. So yeah, also they fixed some menu settings things, the arrangement and stuff like that. So that's also fixed. And yeah, I can confirm. When I set this camera up, I was able to set it up like how I wanted, and it's working exactly how I want it to work, and it's all good. I can't really complain about the functionality and the feature set of this camera. The only thing that I can think of right now that I would like to be changed is to have 3 auto ISO setups, like how Fujifilm does it. So you can quickly switch between 3 auto ISO and minimum shutter speed combination settings, basically, to have one for birds, fast action stuff, to have one for low light stuff, and to have one for normal everyday stuff. And why I mention this, because some of you might say, then get a Z6 or Z5 that has those memory banks, U1, U2, or U3. But Fujifilm does not have memory banks, but still has this auto ISO setup with 3 slots. Also, there is the Fujifilm X-S20 or the XH2 or XH2S, which have these memory banks. But this auto ISO setup with the 3 slots exists and works together with these banks. So each bank can be set up for totally different stuff, and then each bank can rotate through all these three auto ISO settings. And another smaller thing that I don't like about the Nikon, and I think that's also applicable for all other Nikon, so it's not something ZF specific, is how the auto white balance works indoors. Because outdoors seems to be pretty spot on, but indoors with artificial lighting, it really tends to warm up the image way over the top. And the last thing that made me buy this camera is basically the Nikon Recipes, which are supposed to compete with Fujifilm Recipes and the lots that can be applied on Lumix cameras. I just tried out a few things on the NX Studio application, moved the files to the camera, and that's what I am shooting with now. But for now, the only thing that I can say that it looks to be a pretty promising feature. Basically, what you can do is to create some sort of presets like in Lightroom. And in this NX Studio app, you can select the color profile, flexible colors, after which you can use a bunch of sliders to adjust your colors and saturation and contrast and whatever you want in there, similar to what you have in Lightroom. You have sharpness, clarity, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, HSL for all the colors, and also the three-way color wheel. So it really is a decent amount of settings that you can change and adjust, and then you can export this color profile as an MP3 file, which is similar to what Lightroom does when you export a Lightroom preset. And then you can load them in your camera, or you can put them online for others to download, or you can go online and find these files from other creators or photographers that you like their style and use those. Now, what I found compared to Fujifilm Recipes, the Nikon Recipes lack that filmic look, because I think they meant to do something a bit different. So Fujifilm has this softer filmic look. Also, they have a grain setting that you can apply on your recipes, which Nikon lacks. But if you think about it, if Nikon wanted to make this recipes feature to compete against Fujifilm on making the images more film-like, then I think they would have added at least the grain option to add grain and make it really good. But they did not. Basically, what I think that Nikon wanted to do with this is to create a system that would allow to apply a color profile, a custom profile, like you would do with Lightroom presets, directly onto the JPEGs that the camera creates, which is a totally different approach than what Fujifilm wants to do with the recipes. If you are somebody who wants to replicate film and the film look, then maybe these Nikon recipes are not for you. And if you still want to get a Nikon, then you might want to consider editing your photos in Lightroom instead and replicate the film look there. But for the rest of the users who want to try out and replicate Lightroom presets and how Lightroom presets work with a raw file, but directly into the camera, then yeah, this is a great opportunity to look into this NX Studio. These are my first impression thoughts on the Nikon Zf. I hope that I can spread around the word about this camera a bit more, because I think it deserves it. And in the next 2 weeks, I will be testing this camera and compare it with the Fuji X-T5. And after the 2 weeks, I will need to send one of them back, because both of them still have the return policy. Until this point, I think this camera is really good. So I might be keeping this one instead of the X-T5. But until then, I would really like to get your help and let me know in the comments down below what things should I test on this camera and how should I compare this one to the X-T5. In which ways should these two be compared? Thanks for watching. You know the jazz. Subscribe, comment, like, and see you in the next one.